But there's this lies all coming apart. They say, oh, well, we're really terrified about what the temperature might be in 100 years. But what about the national debt? What about the close to $200 trillion America has in unfunded liabilities, a massive multi-million-dollar noose and chain around the unborn? Do they not care about that? No, they don't care about that. They care about whether it's 1 or 2 degrees higher in 100 years. That's madness. That serves their power.
It's just them scripting themselves as a savior. I mean, they even admit in their own internal documents it's all a fraud to take control of all energy, then pick winners and losers. It's the ultimate wicked, villainous energy control plan.
Well, and this is what Trump has done that I hugely admire is Keystone Pipeline and loosening restrictions on coal. Look, a civilization requires energy consumption. That's just the basic reality of it. We're either going to get our energy domestically in North America, or we're going to ship billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars over to theocratic dictatorships that have been implicated in directly funding terrorism around the world. We either have energy ourselves and have jobs ourselves and have incomes ourselves, or we shovel untold amounts of money to theocratic dictatorships who wish us harm. There's no third option. And the fact that Middle Eastern countries have been shown to be funding certain environmental groups is because they want to put the big green barrier up to energy independence in the West so they can continue to get our money so they can fund groups to attack us. And that, to me, it's almost treasonous to freedom to have nothing but opposition to energy independence from the Middle East. And I feel very strongly about that because I can see the pictures of the people who die from these kinds of attacks.
What do you make of Washington, D.C. put a little humble memorial? It ought to be bigger than the Washington Monument for those that died at the hands of communism, the biggest mass murdering regime in history, conservatively 150 million people last century alone, Venezuela collapsing, everything else, and then a bunch of trendies came out and flipped it off, saying there's no such thing as victims of communism. What the hell? What about 60 million Chinese farmers? What about other 20 million killed by the Chi-Coms? Innocent people collectivized and murdered. And David Rockefeller wrote New York Times articles praising it. And now these people, these scumbags, I mean, they live in the lap of freedom, bitching and saying, we want North Korea. I mean, these people are sick. What do you make of that?
I think it's pure sadism. It is pure, horrifying human joy in the destruction of other people's aspirations and hopes and freedoms. I don't know what kind of toxicity in childhood or in the womb or what happens to people that turn them that rancid in their souls, but there have been studies where they show people horrifying injuries, nails being put through people's hands in simulated ways and so on. And there's a certain small section of the population, Alex, their happy centers light up. Their little brain orgasm centers light up. That's what makes them happy, is crushing hopes, crushing aspirations. And of course, those who want to commission future crimes must bury the bodies of past crimes so nobody can see what they have in store. If everyone knew where communism led to, which is a higher death count by far than Nazism. It is the most destructive and toxic ideology the world has ever seen that's not theological.
Conservative over 150 million. Well, let's expand. Countries that actually were through hardcore communism, even the communists in China apologized for Mao and his wife and say he went too far. The Soviets had big debates and apologized for Lenin and Stalin. They say, no, it's perfect, it's wonderful, and F victims of communism. Most of them, poor farmers, didn't even know what it was. I just look at these people. They are such enemies.
Well, this is how you know that there's no such thing as zombies, Alex, because if there were, every time one of these douchebags opened their mouths, there would be millions of post-Soviet death zombies arising back up from the Holodomor in Ukraine, and there would be millions of them just trying to find and eat their brains and coming up completely empty-handed. It is an unbelievably vicious and evil ideology. And the fact that there are out-and-out communists teaching all over the place in universities and think tanks and so on. I was taught by a particular Marxist professor. He wore a little badge of Marx. You can't conceivably be a Nazi out there teaching National Socialist ideology, but you can be a communist, which has a higher death count, and that is the challenge. That is all the stuff we need to expose, not because of the crimes of the past, but the crimes being planned to come.
Exactly. Big universities funded by big foundations, the money of the robber barons, creating communism, and these sick little mental patient professors that couldn't build a barn or run a sandwich shop or wipe their own asses. And I'm not a violent guy, and I'm not calling for violence, but I see them saying kill Trump, overthrow, murder. We got that article on Infowars.com where the deep state is openly saying we're preparing to overthrow Trump. We're going to go after opposition. And it's all these little wimps fantasizing about violence. I mean, imagine those little wimps there desecrating that memorial to the dead. If people actually showed up and said, just with bare fists, let's go, oh, they'd call it hate crimes everywhere. They want to push ideologies that murder people en masse, but they're going to scream bloody murder if people start kicking their asses. And I'm sorry, at a fundamental level, I see them as rat-like enemies, and just my heart starts beating.
They are pencil-necked Iagos to the Othello of the state, right? So what they want to do is they want to put out all their poison in their blogs and their articles. They want to put all this poison out. Trump is Hitler. It's the end of the world if we know it. He's bringing about the extinction of the human race by allowing people to burn coal instead of buying.
Run for the hills. We're all dead.
Yeah, and so what happens is then they get people so inflamed that other people act out their homicidal fantasies. You know, it's like the woman who's really angry at some guy who convinces her boyfriend to go beat him up.
And then a memorial to dead people, you got to go piss on it. That's the thing about the communists locally. They go attack the Blue Cat Cafe. It was in an empty lot. It's a cat sanctuary that's become popular in East Austin. And it's owned by these total liberals. I've actually been there before. I don't want to get a little story. We're going to adopt a cat. We got one somewhere else. And we're sitting there. The communists put glue in the keyhole so you can't feed the cats, knock the windows out, attack it. And it's like, be as nasty as they can. Be as nasty as they can. It's like, what cult are they from?
Well, if a commie wants to get close to a pussy, all he has to do is look in the mirror, as far as I'm concerned, because it is a cowardly and brutal ideology. If you want to go steal from someone, I completely disagree with it, it's immoral, but if you want to go steal from someone and you don't want the risk of a physical confrontation, right, you don't want to be a mugger because a mugger might have someone fight back pretty strenuously, well, then you go to the state and you whisper that all these people are out there who've become rich because they've stolen from the poor and they've stolen from you. So now, please, Mr. Government, get all of the armaments in the known universe pointed at the rich people and get me their stuff.
The big question is, how far does this process go? And what happens? Because I asked it earlier and we didn't get to it. Do they ever capitulate? And then what comes after that, Stefan Molyneux?
Well, I guess like dealing with any addicts, there are some who will get better and some who won't. And we reach with as much information those who've been indoctrinated, like we were talking about communism and so on. A third of millennials believe that President George W. Bush was responsible for more deaths than Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, who killed millions, you know, just in the forced famine in the collectivization of farms in Ukraine, between 2 and 7 million people. So a lot of it is just you've been indoctrinated, you don't know what the truth is, you're in the matrix or the statrix that's created by government miseducation. So some people, when they get better information, they're thirsty for it. They red pill with enthusiasm, they wake up, they pursue more knowledge. Other people recoil and try and avoid it, stick their heads in the sand, and we try and reach as many people as possible. I think, I hate to say it, if I had some big plan other than what I've been doing for the last 30 years, I would be doing that big plan. I think we have this incredible medium. You and I having this conversation thousands of miles apart. It's going to reach millions and millions of people. They can share it. You know, everybody has their part to play. Listen, people may not have your energy, your charisma, your enthusiasm. They may not have my particular abilities and education, but everyone has a part to play. Everything you share, every little shred of information that you bring up, every video you share, every tiny brave post you make on social media, you don't know who that's going to wake up. It could be somebody with infinitely greater talents than the two of us combined.
The power literally lies with the people. There are folks who are more articulate than us that just need to start their own shows and do it as a duty and not be scared. You should be scared of not doing it. By the way, what do you make of Noam Chomsky saying he thinks Trump will stage a false flag to bring in Muslims? Isn't bringing in radical Muslims by the millions, isn't that the false flag? Because they're going to blow stuff up, then you take our rights when they attack.
Well, I think everyone knows that there are going to be more attacks. I mean, don't you every morning just sort of look there and say, woohoo, no attacks today, yay, that's a good day. And so everyone knows there's going to be more attacks and there's going to be an escalation. And in particular, if Marine Le Pen gets in and begins to start to unravel some of the accommodations that have been made to the immigrant population, particularly the third world.
Let's talk about that, because we're already being held hostage. Erdogan says, do what I say or I'll burn up Europe. We got to call the bluff. I mean, you know, you can't pay the pirate over and over again. Well, Stefan Molyneux will talk about paying the pirate. Doesn't work, doesn't turn out well. We'll be back. Stay with us. This is in our opinion. It's not my opinion that they were spying on Trump. They admitted they were. It's not my opinion Obamacare was written by insurance companies to screw you over and raise prices and you not have an open market. And so we just kind of hit that point where you have a lot of losers that imagine they're part of the power structure. And that goes for Republican blue bloods and others as well, who think, you know, I'm with the establishment, I'm compromising. You can't compromise with cancer. Stefan, other points, my friend.
Well, I think it's important to remember when you're looking at the American political landscape, not just the Western political landscape as a whole, is that the leftists have lost the war of ideas. You could argue they lost the war of ideas almost a century ago when Ludwig von Mises published his great works against socialism and collectivism and central planning and so on. The left has lost the war of ideas, and this is why they're turning to censorship. This is why they're turning to outright vote buying in general, just by offering more and more government programs to more and more people. And it's hard to understand things like Obamacare. I mean, the left has wanted single-payer healthcare for decades, but why
and they can't stop like Venezuela. It doesn't matter if it kills them; they'll just keep doing it
because they want more and more third world migrants to come to the West, because those third world migrants come from collectivized cultures, come from tribal cultures, and vote for big government. 80%, 85%, 90% in some regions and among some demographics. They regularly vote for the left. So why did you need Obamacare? Because it was really, really tough for immigrants to get the health care that they wanted. So they had to pass that, not because they care about people's health care. If they did, there wouldn't be so many kids being drugged in schools. They'd shut that down right away, in my opinion. But what they want to do is they're constantly trying to get people in, bribe money, print money, who are going to vote for the left. Why? Because they have no arguments whatsoever. Their arguments have been defied by history, by logic, by economics, by the mounting pile of bodies of socialism around the world, thus being added to now people hunting for rats and pigeons in the sewers of Venezuela. So they've lost the argument for ideas, and now it has all become manipulation. It has become ballot stuffing. It has become illegal immigration, and it has become massive vote buying in the form of government programs.
Sell the world out to be in charge for another week, even though it all collapses, and the elites are running off to, like, the Pacific everywhere, Tasmania, Kauai, you name it, admitting they think it's all going to collapse. Wow.
Well, it is. And all you have to do is ask yourself, if illegal immigrants voted for Republicans, would the Democrats be so keen on having them in? And everybody knows deep down what the answer is. They're being used as human pawns. They're not being used as individuals. They're not being appreciated as individuals. They're being used as objects for the addict to get his power lust, the one drug that drives them mad and might bring us all down if we don't fight their addiction. Power, power, power. The greatest drug, the greatest ring. I think we know in which lava pit metaphorically they need to end up.
To me, the greatest power is the thrill of seeing success of everybody and competition and the huge college of open ideas, and to see your children with other children living into the future and the dreams of humanity and having individualism and just all the incredible choices it gives us. It's so sexy compared to doddering Pelosi and Kim Jong-un. Every state-run thing always has, like, this pathetic creature at the head of it, like Hitler was a pathetic little rat creature. It's like, what the hell is this?
It is the greatest glory in humanity, which is a choice of ideas. You know, when I grew up in England, Alex, we had 3 channels. 2 of them, I think, were owned by the government and, you know, the corporation which protected pedophile Jimmy Savile. So I grew up with 2 channels. Now you flip on your computer, you have an infinite choices. I love the competition. I love the openness. There's no shortage of audience for the truth. I think we just keep speaking the truth, keep passionately bringing what people need to hear to their mind.
Yeah, because they can shut you and I down. 10 more will sprout up because people now have the taste for a larger palate. Stefan Molyneux, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.